All right, everyone, welcome back to another module here in the Academy talking about meetings, okay? How to structure the perfect meeting. Now, in this particular module, we're going in depth with how to make the perfect introduction into a meeting, okay? Now, as you'll see, as we go into this presentation and throughout this module, the introduction is actually very, very important. And if you structure it correctly, you could actually close the client almost 75% of the way. Okay, and that's because the introduction, despite what you might be thinking right now, is a little bit longer than you think. Okay, it's not just about shaking hands and then starting to present your service. There's a lot of just vetting aspects and just a lot of preliminary aspects that we want to cover before we actually start presenting our service. Okay, and so that's what we're going to cover in this module. And as you'll see, we have a very powerful structure when it comes to making the right introduction that will just set the entire meeting on the right path from the very beginning. Okay, and so from the in the initial 3 to 5 minutes, you actually close the client 75% of the way just by asking the right questions and making the right moves. Okay, so everything we're going to go through in this presentation you will have in a docs resource, just like with every part of the meeting phase. And so I'll show you that resource at the beginning, which you of course as usual also can find below this module. Okay, so guys, let's get into it. The perfect introduction. All right, so firstly, you're just going to commence with a little bit of small talk. Okay, now I'm not going to go into a lot of details about this because it's really natural. Okay, now this of course depends on whether you have your meeting physically or on Zoom. Okay, now most of the time you will have your meetings on Zoom, and when you have your meetings online on Zoom, you can usually cut down the small talk to around 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, I usually just like to keep it as short as possible. But when you're going to a meeting physically, which a lot of those of you who are going to your first couple of meetings, okay, my first 3 to 5 meetings were all physical meetings with clients where I actually went to their office. Okay, this might happen a lot to you in the beginning, okay, if you're searching for clients locally. Now, when this happens, I usually do the small talk is 3, 4, 5 minutes. Okay, so a little bit longer than if I had the meeting on Zoom. And this is because when you come to a client's office, the standard customs are that they'll offer you a cup of coffee. And if you're a coffee drinker, I recommend just saying yes. I always say yes to a cup of coffee. And that just is a natural icebreaker, because while they're making this coffee, you can just talk about something random, right? How it's going, etc. Just make up something. I can't really tell you what to say because you're just going to have to adapt to the situation. But again, maximum 5 minutes of small talk if it's physically, and if it's online, you'll probably be able to cut this down to 1 to 2 minutes. And after that, that's when we'll actually get into the introduction itself. Okay, so the introduction itself commences with what we call the PBC, or the purpose benefit check. Okay, now the PBC is an incredibly powerful tool that you can leverage in the introduction of your meetings to set it on the right path. Okay, and so the purpose of the purpose benefit check is just to have the client by themselves say what it is they're hoping to get out of this meeting. Okay, and so the way we'll do the purpose benefit check is by asking them, as the first thing when we sit down and start having the meeting, the first thing we'll ask them is, I'm actually quite curious, and I usually like to start off my meetings by asking this: when you scheduled in this meeting with us, what exactly were you hoping for the meeting to yield? In other words, what would be your dream outcome from this meeting? Guys, do you see how powerful this sentence is? This small introduction, the PBC, it literally sets the entire meeting on the right path, right? Because instantly you're making them think, why did we book this meeting? Well, because we need social media marketing. What would be the dream outcome of this meeting? Well, to have a deal with you guys where you can do social media marketing for us, right? So just by asking this simple question as the absolute icebreaker, as the absolute beginning of the meeting, you're already setting it on the right path, right? So it sets the goal straight from the beginning of the meeting, and they're already starting to think towards the objective. Okay, so often, people, they just sit down for a meeting because they're used to taking meetings. They have no concise idea of exactly what they're hoping to get out of the meeting. Okay, as you start taking more meetings, especially if you don't do the purpose benefit check, you'll notice how many people are just so used to taking meetings, and they've gotten so used to it that they actually just stop thinking what it is they're hoping to get out of this meeting, right? They're just thinking, oh, now we have a 30-minute meeting. Let's see how it goes, right? But by performing the PBC, you're automatically breaking this meeting trance that they may be in and instantly setting the meeting on path to a close. Okay, so they'll usually reply something along the lines of, well, we've been struggling to make social media marketing work for us, or we want to increase our online sales and we thought that social media marketing might be the solution to this, or we've been meaning to start running ads for a while, but we just don't have the expertise or team to do so. Okay. And as you can see, no matter what kind of reply, they provide you with, it could be either one of these three or something, different, but it's usually going to be along the lines of this. Okay. So no matter what they say, it's beneficial to you, right? Because they just said by themselves why, they booked in this meeting with you, and all answers point towards they need your services. Okay. So moving on, you're going to reply something along the lines of, all right, we understand. That's a good foundation for us to move forward on, because that already tells us that you're ambitious about making this work. And we usually only like to work with businesses who are hungry to grow their business through social media and who actually believe that it's possible, because that just makes the whole process more interesting and usually yields better results. Okay, so already here you're implementing just a little bit of scarcity and exclusivity, and you're just confirming that they're sitting in the right spot, right? You're saying, oh, this is a good foundation. Your reply to my question is a good foundation, because we only like to work with businesses who have this mindset. Okay, so even now you're already pushing them further towards the close, right? Because they're already making them feel like this is all correct, right? This is all right for them. Okay, so you say, then you follow up by saying, so we've of course done our due diligence and we have a few assumptions and predictions that we can share with you, but we love to just start out by simply asking you, have you had any social media marketing strategy set in place up until now? And if so, what may that have been? Okay, so you're further building the authority for yourself right here. You're asking them and you're saying, we've of course done our due diligence and preparation, so we have some assumptions and predictions that we can make, but we love to just ask you and hear it from you directly. Have you had any social media marketing strategy in place up until now? Okay, and so they can reply yes or no, right? If they reply yes, well, then you reply with what they could have done better or why it didn't work, right? So if they reply yes, we have had a social media marketing strategy set in place, it didn't work. And they usually even say why it didn't work for them, right? They say, oh yeah, we had it in place, but it didn't work because, our team wasn't doing it right, or this wasn't working out for us. And then you just literally say, yes, that's the reason why it wasn't working, or you come up with some reason as to why their current or previous social media marketing strategy wasn't working out for them. Okay. And just by providing them with this reason, and you should always just pull into something, right? You can always find something tangible in that situation as to why it wasn't working for them, and that puts you in a position of authority. Okay. Now, if they reply no, that they haven't had a social media marketing strategy set in place as of yet, well, then that also immediately puts you in a position of authority. So you just say, well, you understand, but it's quite critical, right? So you say, oh, we understand that you haven't had a social media marketing strategy set in place currently, but it's really critical for you. You guys are literally leaving money on the table by not having a strategy set in stone. Okay. So again, no matter if they reply yes or no, you're going to be able to turn this into a situation where you again gain more authority. Okay. Moving on. So you say, so from our research, we could tell that you're currently clocking in around 300 daily visitors on average. Okay. Now, obviously this is only if they're running a Shopify web shop or another type of web shop where you can research online how many visitors they have on average. And so if you present a fact like this, I just recommend getting their confirmation, right? So you say your prediction, which would be 300 visitors per day, which you've researched, and then you can get their confirmation, right? So maybe they'll say, yeah, maybe it's unusual 350 or 250. Regardless, you've been quite close to the right number, and that already tells them that you know what you're talking about, right? Then you say, so we'd assume that you're currently sitting around somewhere between $10,000 to $20,000 in monthly revenue. Okay. And I've already taught you guys how to calculate this. So yeah, you're going to be able to make quite a precise prediction. Okay. And then again, get the real number. Okay. So any business owner will immediately have the right number, right? Any business owner knows exactly how much their business is doing per month. I can guarantee you that. So you make your prediction. You say, we estimate that you're probably doing around $10,000 to $20,000 per month through your web shop. Is that correct? And then they'll say, it's pretty close. And then you just say, no, actually, can you give me the precise number? We're very curious to hear, right? And that's not rude, right? Some people, especially me in the beginning when I was starting my agency, I thought that was a rude question to ask, but it's not, right? You're a social media marketing agency and your only objective here is to lift their sales. So obviously you need to know what their current sales are. That's the foundation, okay? So that's not a rude question at all. That's just a natural question that you need to know. So if they say, yeah, it's pretty close, then you say, actually, we love to just know precisely what it is, because then we have all numbers on the table. We know what we're working with, and then we know what we're pushing towards. Okay, so you just ask them that, get the real number. Then you say their biggest competitors, right? So your biggest competitors seem to be competitor 1, 2, and 3, and mention if they're running ads, okay? So even though in your research you might have found their 5 biggest competitors, I only recommend, mentioning a maximum of 3 during the introduction of the meeting, because 5 is just a lot, right? So mention 1, 2, or 3 of their biggest competitors. Yeah, ideally 2 or 3. And then, you can even mention if these competitors are currently running ads, right? Because that will instantly put the business owner that you're talking to in a mindset of, oh, our biggest competitors are running ads. They're killing it on social media. We should be doing that too, or we're going to fall behind, right? So just implementing that want in them, right? This is the whole goal of the entire meeting, especially in terms of the introduction, presenting your services, is just to really make them feel like they want your service. And at the end of the meeting, your only objective is that they should feel that they can't go on another day without your services, okay? They should feel that it's impossible to grow their business further without your assistance, okay? That's what you're working towards here. So now that we have all numbers on the table, it's easier for us to move forward, okay? We already have a clear idea of the height to which we could take your brand in the next 3 to 6 months, but we'd love to ask and hear an answer from you personally. In terms of revenue, where would you like to see your business be in 3 months from now, as well as in the horizon of 6 months from now, okay? As you can see, guys, we're really asking these questions, right? We're having them say these numbers by themselves, and that's so important in terms of getting them to want the service, right? If we just, all of these questions we've asked them, right? We've had the answers to these questions, but if we just presented our answers without asking them to say it themselves, then it'd be feeling like you're just trying to sell them, like really, really hard, right? But when you ask them the questions and they say these things for themselves, they actually start to believe that themselves, right? They start to feel like this is the situation they're moving into. So we're asking them in terms of revenue, where we like to be in 3 months from now and in 6 months from now. And in that way, they're setting the goal clear for themselves in their own head, and you also get an idea of what their goal is, right? Moving on. So they'll say maybe, oh, we'd like to grow from $10,000 per month to $15,000 per month in the next 3 months, and then to $25,000 per month in the next 6 months. Okay. And you can even say, because you've made your own predictions, right? And you can even say, interesting. I mean, they're not bad objectives at all, but we had set them slightly higher. Okay. In terms of our experience, these are the predictions we had set for your brand if we were to go all in with our social media marketing efforts for you. So in terms of the 3-month horizon, we'd be aiming to have you set at around $25,000 per month. And in 6 months from now, we're aiming for around $50,000 per month in revenue for you guys, okay? So you're confirming that their predictions, like their aspirations and their goals for the revenue in the next 3 to 6 months, they're pretty good, but you're actually saying they're quite modest and that you had set the expectations a little bit higher, right? And by doing this, they'll be surprised, right? They'll be like, wow, that's more than we're expecting, right? You're really getting them excited to start this service. That's what you're working towards all the time, getting them excited to work with you, getting them in that mindset of, well, we really need to work with these guys in order to grow our business. Okay, that's what you're working towards. So moving on, you can say, but if it makes you comfortable, we can confidently say that your goal is quite modest and definitely very achievable, right? So you're saying, oh, your goal was quite modest and quite standard, so that's definitely achievable if that's all you want, right? Now, I think we can all agree that some sort of change or action needs to happen for that growth to occur, correct? Okay, so this is also a really good vetting question, right? You're again getting them to confirm that something needs to happen here, right? They literally just told you that in the next 6 months, they want to go from 10,000 to 25,000 in monthly revenue. Okay. Now, any person can tell you that in order for that change to happen, in order for that growth to occur, some change needs to happen, right? It's a no-brainer, right? Of course, if they want to go from 10,000 to 25,000 or even 50,000, something is going to need to happen to bridge that gap between those two numbers, right? And so you're asking this question, can we agree that something needs to happen for you to go from point A to point B? And they'll say, absolutely. And you say, all right, great. Well, we're not trying to close any deal yet. Firstly, we'd like to present our services, and then we'll evaluate if it's right to move forward from here. Okay, so this is brilliant, right? Just implementing a little bit more, a little touch of scarcity again, and saying, all right, great. Now we've literally settled the entire foundations, our goals, objectives, etc. But we're not even trying to close any deal yet. First, we'd like to present our services to you, show you how we work, and then we'll evaluate if it's right to move forward from there, right? You're really implementing this exclusivity in the meeting and saying that, oh, you're still not even sure that, you still have to see their reaction to you presenting your services. before you're ready to move forward, right? So you're really keeping this scarcity, keeping this exclusivity mindset, and really just making them want to work with you more and more and more. Okay, and so next step is going to be presenting your services. Okay, now as you should have already gotten the impression, and as I said at the beginning of this module, by making this introduction, you're closing them pretty much 75% of the way, right? Because we're asking them all of these vetting questions, all of these things that automatically gets them into the mindset that they need to work with you in order for them to go from point A to point B, right? In order for this growth to occur. Okay, so yeah, at this point, if you've performed this introduction correctly, you would have closed them pretty much 75% of the way. That's what we usually see in these kind of meetings when we take these meetings with clients. We make this introduction, by the time we're about to start presenting our services, they're pretty much already ready to work with us, right? That's the magic of making an introduction like this. Okay, now I just want to finish off the module by showing you the resource, okay? So here you have the meeting introduction script, which of course you'll find linked below this module as usual. Now, this script literally just includes everything we went through in this presentation, right? So the PBC, common replies to the PBC, answers, research informational phase, yes, no answers. Like literally this script includes everything we've just gone through inside of the presentation, step by step. So yeah, instead of, if you guys just want to refresh your knowledge on the introduction before going into your next meeting, you don't have to rewatch the entire module. Now you know what the structure is, and you can just open up the document and read it through in a minute or two. Okay, that's why we created a resource for you. So yeah, as always, if you want to change some things, you can always, of course, click file, make a copy, and then you can go ahead and edit the different aspects to your liking, right? And you might want to personalize the meeting script a little bit, just like with the emails and the cold calls, right? It's always a great idea to personalize it to your own liking. Okay, so you feel comfortable with it, and so you know exactly what it says. Okay, so that's going to be it for the introduction. Hopefully you caught onto all the valuable points, because really, if you make this introduction, you'll already be set towards the path of closing your first client. Okay, so yeah, I'll see you in the next module where we're talking about how to present the service to the client.